Hey guys. Hello. Yes.
Hey, G.
Hey,
Hey, Sam.
how's it going?
Sorry. Good.
Hey, James.
Hello, hello. When did we switch over to Zoom?
Today. So that was an action item last time. Because we want to record the meeting.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, let me actually send an email to everyone on this list. I'm not sure. I updated the invite. I'm not sure if they pick up the change.
Looks like we had Julian and we lost him.
Yep. All right, just send out an email. Hopefully everyone can join. I think Julian just joined. I think we can get started. We don't have too much agenda item today. I want to talk about two things. One, the face-to-face meeting. So we had a discussion last time in the community meeting that that we plan to do a face-to-face meeting, and I saw a bunch of +1 from that thread. So are we gonna do this? Like if we decide to do this, like where can we, when, where should we do this? Hey Brian.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
No worries. We'll just get started. I was just chatting about the face-to-face meeting that was brought up by Andrew last community sync.
Yeah, was there a time we wanted to do that?
Yeah, I think sounds like we should do that. And then the question is when, where. Like anyone wants to propose a location. Like sounds like we are all in Bay Area except James, who's.
I am not in the Bay Area.
Oh, Brian, you're not in Bay Area too. Okay. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Florida.
Oh, Florida. Nice.
I will be in the Bay Area next week, though.
Oh, okay.
Could we do it next week? That might be a little bit tough.
A little bit tight.
Proposed it, yeah.
Yeah, that would be a
Yeah,
little tough.
I think I would prefer Bay Area as well, if that is at all possible.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to make it much easier for me to commit to actually being there.
Okay, so are you guys okay with like either San Francisco or like the South Bay? Like which one do you guys prefer?
At that point, it's not a huge deal, but slight preference for South Bay, so I could avoid commuting up.
Okay. What about you, Julian? Are you in the city or in South Bay?
I'm in the city.
You're
So we could probably come up with a conference room here if it's in the city, but that's either's fine for me. I have a car, doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with both too. I live in South Bay. I work in the city. So, okay. So, how about this? I'm gonna reply to the thread and ask folks to suggest a time, probably like open a pool on this and see what's the best slot for that. And the area we tentatively decide to be in Bay Area, either in San Francisco or South Bay, TBD. Once we have all the attendee confirmed, how does that sound?
Yep, sounds good.
Reasonable to me.
Is there a general date range that you're thinking about, Chi?
So I think given that I think the certification tooling needs to needs to get started. I think I prefer like ASAP. Probably not next week, but like the week after, or what day is it today? Or like early February. So next week is January 26th, and then February. Yeah, I mean either I think early February sounds like a good choice. I think I just want to get this started, especially the validation tooling. I think it's good to have a face-to-face meeting and get the project kick started, and then we can iterate on the GitHub later.
On that front, we are making pretty good progress on that. There was a bunch of stuff that was kind of out of whack with our existing cert tests, but we've mostly addressed those, and we've got it up to date with the latest spec.
Okay.
So we're further along there. It would be great to get feedback from folks though about what we think is critical.
Yep. Yeah, I think that my main worry is like if we further longer, the further diverge we're gonna have on those toolings. So it's better to do that right now than later.
Yeah. I think too. I mean, the thing we haven't done yet, of course, is to run this tooling against anyone else's plugins. So that would be another interesting thing for us to try, is like make sure everybody's got the same understanding of what the expected behaviors are.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. I'm gonna send out that email and the time slot. So I'm gonna try to pick the time slot either the end of this month or early February, so that hopefully we can attend. Okay, so that's the face-to-face meeting. The other one, I'm just looking at those issues, 0.2 issues that folks put there. I think we're going to decide to do a kind of triage or like a discussion next time community meeting for this. Just looking at the milestone. Okay, so right now we have 3. One is mount device, one is the user credential. I saw a PR for this this issue too, and the other one is topology.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for the first one, we have a PR. For the second one, I think there was an old PR. We need to send out a new one.
A new guy sent out a PR. So there's a guy from Cisco sent out a PR on this.
Oh, right. I've been working with Sergey. Okay, I guess he got that PR out. I need to review that PR and take a look at it.
Yeah, I made some comments there. So yeah, I think we first should get that PR.
Okay.
Merged.
And then the third one is still outstanding. So beyond these 3, there is another set of changes that I would like to consider. I had one of the gRPC authors review the spec with me, and he had some changes that he suggested. I can open up issues for each one of them, but I wanted to run it by you guys first. So one of the proposed changes is, for example, he recommends not using unsigned integers in your protos, because unsigned integers don't exist in all languages like Java, and that can cause issues in the future. So his recommendation is to stick to integers everywhere. We have unsigned integers in our protobufs today.
Okay.
And small changes like that, would you guys be okay with putting that in 0.2?
Yeah, it seems like the time to do it
Okay.
before we strike a 1.0.
Excellent.
All right.
So let me open up issues for those. It's going to be a handful of them, and we can review them one by one.
So Sai, just one question. As I'm looking at those PRs, I think some of the PR just changed the existing protobuf fields. So do we allow that, or
Yeah.
like what I'm thinking about right now is like, say like we have 0.2 out,
Mhm.
and then as a CO, I want to support both versions, for example.
Yep.
How is that possible if we change those types directly without like?
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of right now as well. Backwards compatibility. I don't know what the right answer for it is. I think to a certain extent, we may have to make backwards compatibility breaking changes.
Mhm.
From the Kubernetes side of things, we are in alpha, so if things break between alpha to our next release, it's not the end of the world. It's not ideal, but this is the kind of flexibility we wanted to give ourselves for cases like this.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, like part of the reason that we're pre 1.0 is to allow us to kind of flesh out these issues and before we start having to take on the overhead of backward compatibility, because it's never like, it just gets messier from here. Once we hit 1.0 and we guarantee backward compatibility, then that song starts up. But if we don't have to do it, it would be better to try to strike something clean.
Okay, I think that's fine by me. I was just thinking about that problem by looking at the one of the PR that's just changed the name of the protobuf fields, and the other PR just changed the tag name, or sorry, the tag number, which they don't have to. But anyway, I think I agree with that. Like, have a clean state and don't worry about backwards compatibility before 0.2 sounds good to me. I think anyway, it's experimental in Mesos, are fine in Kubernetes, so we can change that anytime. Okay. Sounds good. Anything else that the gRPC author kind of mentioned?
So there's like a philosophical debate about this ID to ID question. Because some people believe ID is an abbreviation. Other people believe it's an initialism.
Oh,
and I think there's some, I don't know what it is, guide or something for gRPC naming, and I think it's all camel case or something. And
oh yeah, so I remember that. So so the protobuf to for example Java, the Java binding. So there's a special scheme for translation. So for example, if you do like a full underscore bar, the field name translate into Java will be like capital full, no space, capital bar. For class name, or for field name, I think it's like no capital full, and then no space, capital B bar. So there's a special conversion kind of scheme there for Java. I'm not sure for C++, there's it's a 1-to-1 mapping. I think I'm not sure for Golang. There's a mapping too, I guess, for the naming of the protobuf fields.
Right. I think, but this ID to ID question comes down to whether or not ID is, well, at least in Golang, the convention is acronyms and initialisms should be all uppercase. And ID back in the, distant past was an acronym standing for identity document. So in theory, if you're following that naming convention, ID should have a capital D. If you believe it's just an abbreviation for identity, then it should have a lowercase d.
Okay, so what about field name? Like, for example, I'm just looking at this. Sorry, I might not get the context, but are you saying that for things like, for example, in this, can you guys see my screen, by the way?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for example, for this no_ID, like, should we change that?
No,
I think
because
that should remain the same.
Okay, but
that's all snake case, which is just lowercase, right?
Yeah.
The question I think is we're referring to ID in the comment here, for example, and in the method names with a capital D.
Oh, I
Which
see.
my understanding, depending on the capitalization convention you're using, this looks correct to me, according to like Golang capitalization convention. According to JavaScript capitalization convention, you should lowercase acronyms or initial uppercase acronyms. So it's kind of depending on what our convention is, and I don't know that have we picked a convention that we want to stick to.
I guess the way that I interpreted that ID to ID was with respect to API fields, not necessarily comments or descriptions. So, or I shouldn't say API fields only, but API calls. In this case, we have get node ID, right?
Yeah.
Which is an actual API call, and then that should that actually be ID all uppercase, or should that be ID like upper camel case?
And again, I think that just comes down to what the convention is for gRPC, because I believe ID is if we want to be sticklers about it, ID is an initialism, meaning the I and the D stand for different words.
What was the motivation for this change, Saad?
I think he was just saying that this is the way it should be for gRPC. I forget where it's written down, but somewhere that's the guidance.
I see. And it's specific for the get node ID.
Right.
That's the only ID that we have in the interface and the protocol.
I don't think it's a huge thing if we decide that this is what we want.
Yeah, in fact, that reminds me another issue that bring up by Andrew, like get node ID should really be no get ID, because the kind of the convention being followed, like for example, all the node plugins start from node, like no published volume, no published unpublished volume. Like for this get ID thing should be like no get ID. Like if we were to change that, we probably just change that too.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Anyway, so okay. Anything else? Maybe rename controller to cluster.
Yeah, so the other two are more kind of guidance level things. So the last item there is about like if you generally, when you create an API, you should consider the nouns that you're operating on. So if he looked at our API and he's like, okay, you guys are creating volume, deleting volume, publishing volume, you should have that noun as a message somewhere in your API. And I pointed out, well, we have this volume info thing, which basically captures that. And the suggestion was, well, maybe you should rename volume info to volume, and then it becomes clear that you have these operations that you're acting on this object, which is a very clear entity. And then kind of related to that is that third point, the third bullet point, which is we have node, which makes sense. Node is a object, it's a noun, it's something concrete. Controller becomes a little bit confusing, and he suggested naming that to something more concrete, like cluster. It's a noun, it's a real thing, so you can associate those actions against something, right? So with a node, we have node publish, you're publishing against the node. With controller is not really a thing, but cluster is a thing. So if you're publishing against a cluster, or you're doing other operations against the cluster, that makes more sense than controller. Again, these are just suggestions. We don't have to do it, but worth taking into consideration.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of changing. Like for the third bullet, I kind of against that, because I think the concept of controller and node has been adopted widely, and if we change that naming, it will cause more confusions.
Yeah.
I'll try to avoid that. I'll avoid that confusion.
Okay.
The rest sounds okay. It's not a big deal. Like we can either do it or I think for the first bullet, we might just want to do that, given his concern on this. But for the rest, I think it's, except the third bullet, I don't think we should do that. The rest sounds okay.
Okay. So I'll create a issue for everything except for the third one, and then we can take it to the issues.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Is there anything that that you guys want to put into 0.2?
There is possibly one more thing I was going to consider, which is cleaning up the way that capabilities are currently done. The problem that I had when I was doing the Kubernetes implementation was that I want to be able to discover if, let's see, so I want a volume plugin to be able to not implement the controller at all if they don't need to. So for example, the NFS volume plugin, it has no controller capabilities, no controller operations, but it is forced to implement the controller interface because I think it has to implement some methods in there which are required. So I wanted to rework the spec to be able to make that optional, meaning if you don't want to implement a controller, you don't have to. And what that would mean is also moving the capabilities. Instead of putting the capabilities inside controller and node, you put the capabilities as global capabilities of the plugin inside the identity service. So you can use identity to discover whether it implements controller or not, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I like that. I think I also had an issue recently on this because of the recent get no ID change, that we say that get no ID is not mandatory if you don't have publish and publish volume publish and publish capability, which is just like get no ID is a no service. It's part of the no service, but publish and publish volume is part of the controller capability.
Yeah.
So that's a bit weird too. So moving that capability stuff into identity service will solve the issue too.
Okay, I will take a to-do to add an issue for that. Okay.
Okay, so Julian, you mentioned like the ID by convention is capital I, lowercase d.
Yeah, I followed the. I just went to the Google recommendations for gRPC. Seems like gRPC wants hard camel casing, meaning all HTML, for example, would be big H, lowercase m. So.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. I mean, so Sai, once I think if we want to do that change, let's change the get no ID to like no get ID maybe to just to resolve the other issue that Andrew opened. Like I think I don't remember the number, but there's an issue I remember. Okay, so the other one I want to discuss, have you guys seen this PR? Anyone has context for this one? Sad, maybe you have this context. Sorry, not the PR, sorry, the GitHub issue.
I know a little bit about the background for this, but I don't have much knowledge. So my understanding is that they're trying to create these new hypervisor-based containers, and they were asking about what, how they can add support for this. I don't know what concretely is required to add support for these types of hypervisor containers. So it would be interesting to see what changes they're suggesting.
Yeah, they actually have sorry, go ahead.
just looking at the PR, to me, this looks extremely similar to something Brian raised a while ago, which was to suggest that rather than producing or rather than taking a mount point and mounting something to it in the plugin should produce
Oh, yeah.
mount spec, right? So the plugin just produces this description of a mount, and then later on the CO takes responsibility for executing that mount. So that works nicely in the case of something mounted directly into a container, because we just give it a mount spec, and in fact the OCI container spec expects a list of mounts. It doesn't expect a list of mount points. So that all kind of dovetails nicely. I'm kind of wondering if this isn't sort of
I think that
thing.
That does sound similar to that, although the proposal they have is slightly different.
Yeah, and I was meaning to kind of follow up on it, but I didn't. I think I was looking at this on my phone, so I never got around to circle back to it and link it to the other issue. And
Okay. So how about this? So I think this is kind of important that we probably should think about that. I'm pretty sure they're going to bring this up maybe next time's community sync. We probably need to think a little bit on this. I need to think about this. I'm just bring this issue. I just bring this issue up because I think that's one of the interesting things that came up during during last week. Anyway, just bring you guys into attention. Okay. Anything else you guys want to discuss? If not, we can just close the meeting today. And I'm gonna send out. I'm gonna create a YouTube channel for this one and post the video there so that other people can see this.
Cool.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, G. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.